as I began praying, and I'm going to explain this before I get into it, we talked about this briefly we started getting into it on Wednesday night a couple weeks ago. And that was so many times I feel like as a church, we talk about dreams, God-given dreams. And we even talk about hearing His voice and the plans He has for us. But the step that I think is the most important, even beyond hearing His plan, knowing His will, and maybe even the first steps He's asked you to take, is actually the first step. Do you understand what I'm saying? So many Christians have come and they'll say, I believe God has put this out in front of me. This is a God-given dream. And let's say they're spot on. They know exactly what that dream is. They even know the first steps that He's asked them to take. But so many times, they are not willing to take that first step. And we're going to talk about that because, so as I begin to talk to you, we're going to go over some of the different stages I believe we sit in and we never realize the God-given dream, all right? So today, this is going to be the God-given dream, because when people look at this, they see the beauty in it. They see what they want in a plant, right? They see, that's what I want. I see that in someone else's life. I see that dream being played out in someone else's life. I see God's glory all over them. I see just the success they have in what God has called them to. All these things that look awesome, I want that, right? But I'm not willing to do sometimes what it takes to get to here, because this was not created, the pot was not created in a factory with this in it. This didn't come out of a machine. It had to be planted, and it had to be watered, and it had to be grown in an environment where God was able to grow it into what it is now. And a lot of times, I believe we get stuck in these different stages. So today, as I reference them, this, if you can't see, is an empty pot. And we're going to talk about that today. That is someone that is just living life, all right? No dream. This is someone, this has got the soil in it that's been given a God-given dream and nothing else, all right? Just the dream, all right? This is a pot with dirt in it with just one flower. And as many of you that came up to me and told me beforehand, Mike, there's something wrong with that one. These two things here are not flowers, all right? Those are weeds I picked from my yard, all right? So those are two weeds around that flower that we see here, all right? And that's our God-given dream that we're going to be talking about. That's the end result. And so as we get into it, that's what I want you to remember. I love not only going into the scriptures and finding out what God has, I love looking up famous historical speeches or quotes, because there are so many times people that don't even live a life of following Christ, they say something that is so God-ordained because it's something that God has put in them, and they just don't know the source yet. And so I love reading about some of these things. And one of the things that I found, one of them that stuck out to me was Colin Powell's, a dream doesn't become reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. And a lot of times in the church we go, well, Michael, that's not true. It takes God. God's got to make that happen. And that's true. The dream has got to come from God. But do you realize that He'll give you specific steps to make that dream a reality? And you can sit in your prayer closet all day long getting new God-given dreams, and if you don't ever come out of that door and take the step that He's called you to take, it will only be just that. It'll be a dream. And you will never live in the reality of what God is calling you to. See, the dream is not what He's called you to just to dream it. He's given you that dream to give you a target for you to run to, for you to aim yourself at, for you to prepare yourself for. And so I need you to hear me. The prayer closet, it's got to start there. It does. I'm not saying it. And it's got to continue. You got to continue to go into your prayer closet. But if you don't come out of it and take the step He's asking you to take, it will stay in the phase of a dream. And it will never become your reality. And you'll always be looking at everybody else's dream going, why can't that be me? Why aren't my dreams coming true? Why aren't the visions that God has given me and placed on my heart coming true? One of the reasons might be that you're not willing to take the first step that He's called you to. See, God's given us free will. God's given us abilities and talents and a physical body that He desires that after we have been planted, the dream has been planted, He asks us to take a step. So what is a dream that never comes to reality? It's worthless. It's worthless. A dream that does not become our reality is worthless. It becomes a story that I get to tell people. And you know what? When people hear enough stories about something that never becomes a reality, they get real tired of hearing that story. You understand what I'm saying? It's a worthless story if all it ever is a dream. That means you've taken that God-given dream and it's been wasted. God didn't give it to you just to pump us up, right? He didn't just give us that dream to say, here, I want you to feel good today, and I'm going to pour this dream in your heart. He poured it in to pump you up and then to get you to go make it a reality, because He wants to use you mightily in that dream that He gave you. And so a dream has to become more than just a dream. We get paralyzed in that first stage. We get paralyzed with fears, self-doubt, hurts, low self-esteem, laziness. Sometimes we've been given a dream and we don't struggle with many of those, but we struggle with laziness and we just know the work it's going to take. So there's a lot of things that paralyze us in that first one. Today I want to look at what I believe is the most important part of the dream, chasing the dream, and that is the first step. And then continuing to be willing to take the steps it takes to make that dream into our reality. See, I can tell you all day long my dreams. I can be passionate about it. I can tell you what God has poured into me. I can tell you what God has given me and how it's going to play out. And I can get you excited for me, but that does nothing for you and the dream that God has on your heart. See, one of the keys that we're going to talk about is that you cannot receive your God-given dream from anybody else in this room or anybody else on this planet. You cannot receive your God-given dream from anybody but God. God will use others around you to speak into your life and encourage you after hearing it. God will use others around you to solidify what you've heard. Man, they'll come alongside you and say, man, God just told me to speak this over you, and it will land perfectly with what God's showing you. He'll do that completely through others. But the God-given dream has got to come from the source, God. So my dreams can't be your dreams. Our dream for CLA can be our dream, but for my personal life, you cannot receive your dream from me. And I can't receive my dream from you. Don't touch that again, Michael. So today I want to talk about, starting out, is the pot without anything in it. That is the person that's living life. They've gone through a conversion. They believe in who God is. They come to church. They're living an okay life. Things are good, but they've got no dream. They've got no direction that they're heading towards. And they look around and they just say, man, why does everybody else have these dreams? Why are they able to share passionately about what God is wanting them to be a part of? And they're just going along with wherever life takes them. Whatever whatever happens, maybe I lose my job, maybe this, maybe I'll just go over here, and whatever job hires me, that's where I go, and maybe I got to leave and I got to go do this. They just go. They just go with life. But it's not directed by a God-given dream. It has no purpose other than just a good life. And that's a dangerous place to be. God has a specific plan for each of us. God has a specific purpose for each of us. God has a God-given dream that He wants to plant in our heart and then help us get to that and make it a reality. Some of us not only have no dreams, some of us have been given a God-given dream in the years past and we feel broken. Some of us believe that dream is dead. Maybe because I walked away from God. Maybe because it's just been so long I gave up on it. Maybe I don't think it's possible. And so in that same pot without the soil in it are those of us that are struggling because we believe the dream that was given to us by God when we were younger, and because it hasn't happened for whatever reason that is, it's broken, it's dead, it's not going to happen. But that's the same pot, is I don't have that purpose that God has poured over my life. Seeing others' dreams and wondering and getting jealous why they are given these great things, these great plans, plants me and keeps me locked into that empty pot. Because I never begin seeking and asking God, what do you have for me? What's my dream? Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." That scripture promises me that God has a plan and a future that is awesome for me. He says, not a plan that's going to keep you down, a plan that is success, a plan that I have for you that is specific to only you. And I have great things for you, but you have to come seek me. You have to come ask me what they are. Jeremiah 29:11, God has a plan for us. See, pot number 2 has a soil in it. Pot number 2, we've been given the dream. I've gone in, I've sought the Lord, I've asked Him, Lord, give me a dream. God, I want your dream for me. And He pours it into my life. So guess what? If that's where I'm stuck, am I any closer or any better than the empty pot? If I stay right there, right after I've been given a dream? Interactive. No. No better. No better. I can be given a dream. Sometimes we just stand in that. We want to talk about it and we love it and we're always saying what God has poured into my life and I just live in it. I'm no better than not having the dream at all because this was not the dream. Just giving me a dream was not God's reality. Putting soil and getting me started down that path was not the end result that God wanted, correct? So just having the dream does me no good. That starts everything. That's the beginning. But just living in that afterwards and never taking and setting the path to get to that point, man, we're missing everything that God has for us. I've heard His voice. I've sought Him. I've heard the dream He's given to me specifically. Maybe I wrote it down in my journal. Maybe I've shared it with a lot of people. He's even brought other people in my life that have spoken that dream over me, and man, I know it was from God without a shadow of a doubt. But I'm not doing anything with it. I'm trying to live in an empty dream. I'm just telling stories. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live, by J.K. Rowling. I love that quote. It's no good if all you are is a dreamer. And all you choose to do is live right there inside that dream. Because you are not living the life and the reality that God called you to. Think about that. So many people spend their whole life saying, I got to go back to my prayer closet and I got to get more. You've been given exactly what God wanted to give you. And you just keep returning to say, God, I need more of what you want to speak over me. And you're not living the life day to day that He designed you to live. You're not impacting and influencing those around us that God designed us to influence. It's the church that says we have this great vision that we've been talking about these last few months. But then that's all we do is we just talk about it. And so, man, I want us as a body to say, this is not enough. We are not content with just being given the dream. We want so much more than just the dream, God. I don't want to just tell my kids or my friends the dream, a great story, and get them excited, and then next year tell them the same dream and the same story, and the next year tell them the same dream, and then I'm older and I'm saying, hey, but you know what God called over me? Do you know what dream God told over me? How funny would that be? is you're 70, 80 years old and you're telling your family, hey, do you realize the dream that God gave me? And you lay out this whole dream right then, and they're sitting there going, I know you and I know your life, and you didn't do anything you just told me. Think about that. Is that where we want to end up? The dream is not enough. I don't want to get to 80 years old and say, hey, but listen, my dream that God gave me was so much bigger and better than yours. Let me share it for you, all right? And then I lay it out, and it is awesome, all right? And you're sitting there going, you didn't do any of that, Michael. You didn't take one step into that. So literally, it's the same story I've heard every year of your life. The dream is not enough. The dream is not enough. It's Joseph getting the dream and then stop seeking God, stop walking to what God has for him, and he never lives in the reality of where God placed him to affect and impact not only his family, but every other person around him. The dream is not enough. I don't want to live in the dream phase. I don't want to tell great stories. I don't want to be caught up living in the, man, how great it was and emotional it was to hear God's dream. I want to live in God's reality. Pot number 3, it has dirt in it, and it's been, a dream has been planted, and maybe I've taken the first step. See, it's got a beautiful little flower, and I've started on the way, and I'm going, man, this is great. God's even given me my first step. And I've been praying over it and seeking him and hearing his plan. And this seed begins to grow and this dream begins to happen. And I get really excited. And it's really good because I can start to see what I saw in that dream. I begin to feel like, okay, maybe now it's all right. And then this is exactly where some of us stop. We get stopped right here in this phase. Why? A couple different reasons. One is it feels really good to start seeing his dream come into place, right? Man, it just begins to just encourage me because, man, I heard right. That dream's starting to happen. Maybe it took a lot of work just to get that planted. Maybe it took a lot of effort and time and energy to see that little flower come forth, and we get locked into right there into that phase. See, it has the dirt, it has the flower growing. We've started to prepare by praying over it. But Psalms 32:8 says something. He says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye. If I want to know exactly what God wants me to do next, I cannot get caught up living off of the small success of seeing that dream start. If I do, that will never become that. Never. First of all, because that's a totally different flower than that, if you didn't notice, but that will never become that. It takes much more than just the beginning. How many dreams have you seen played out in your life where it took very little effort, very little action on your part, very little time, and everything was just, you just sat back and it was like Christmas, and they just said, open this present. It's not only the dream, it's everything. It's done. Sit back and open the present, right? Because God knows that if he places you here before he does all these stages, you will die in that. It will not be successful. That dream will be short-lived, and it won't have the impact that God wants it to have. And so throughout this process, what God is doing is preparing us for that dream that he's placed on our heart. Sometimes when I get the first step, I realize how hard it's going to be to go from there to there. God just began showing me that the investment I just made that might have felt like it was everything I had, it was going to take even more to get from there to there. And sometimes that's when we quit. Sometimes we go, nope, I can't do that. There's no way. There is no way after how much pain I just walked through or stuff that God was taking out of me and chipping away and stuff he was doing in my life, there's no way I can continue down that road if it's going to take even 10 times more than what just happened. I can't do it, God. And so we quit right there. We see the work it takes. We see whatever it is, and we just stay right there in that little flower. And it doesn't mean good things aren't happening in my life. Man, it took a lot to get that little flower. But you know what? I want so much more than that. I don't want to live right there. I want my life, our church, the body of CLA, to be in this stage. I want us to get to this dream, and then I want us to go like this, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, that was great. God, what's next? I don't want just that. I want what's after that. I want to reach all those stages, and I want to get to the end, and I want to say, what more do you have for us, God? See, pot 4 is much different. That's a totally different phase. That is, we've got that first flower, but then we start to live in what I just said. I stop seeking Him for His direction. Maybe I'm not willing to take the next step. I'm not living out the things that it took me to get to this stage, and I get complacent. And I shift it into neutral, and I start coasting down hills. And pretty soon I look around, and there's these weeds that are growing up in my life that in the beginning I didn't even notice. But by the end, if we allow this to continue, it will not only strangle and kill the dream that God gave us, it will literally shatter the pot because these weeds will overtake our life. Because I wasn't willing to continue doing what it takes. See, God says, hey, listen, I got pruning I want to do. There's some weeds that I still want to deal with. There's still some hurts in your background that I want to speak truth into, that I want to heal. There's still more I want to do in you. There's still some more things that I want to do in your character. I want to grow you. I want to draw you into me. Hey, listen, I want more time with you. I want more of an investment because I've got so much more than just that. But when we don't continue doing those foundational things that it took to get to this place, pretty soon we'll look around and that dream will be so covered and hidden by the weeds in our life, we'll be in a completely different place. And we'll be wondering, how in the world did I get there? How now am I going to get from here to here? And then we get discouraged, and we allow that to sit in, and we get depressed, and we start cutting ourselves down, and we start saying, there's no way. You know that dream that I passionately shared with my family or my friends? Now they're looking at me, and they see these weeds. How in the world am I ever going to get to here? It starts with the desire of saying, God, number one, if I have allowed these weeds to grow up, these new weeds, Lord, I want to be in a continual state of growth. God, I want to go after you. God, I want to say I'm willing to daily get up and surrender my life to you. God, I need you to prune me no matter what it takes, no matter how much it hurts. God, I need you. And I'm willing to do what it takes to get back to this stage so then I can do what it takes to get to that one. So what I'm saying is, guys, that if we're in a point in our life where we're saying, man, I really let some weeds strangle the dream, the time is now. The time is now. The time is now to say, God, I know that dream was from you, and it's not dead, and it's not broken, and I'm not too old, and I'm not too poor, or I don't, all these different excuses. God, I know that dream was from you, and I desperately need you to come in and pull these weeds. I need you to desperately begin to shave away what's not of you. Sometimes, God, I need to re-alter my priorities. I need to get the fertilizer back into my life. I need to begin watering that dream. I need to begin seeking you. I need to begin doing everything you've asked me to do. I need to be taking those steps that you've asked me to take. And look, God, I'm ready. I'm ready to take this and move into that stage. I'm sick and tired of staying here. God, I want more of you. See, a lot of what we've been talking about CLA is that, God, there's so much more. God, I want more of what you have. I desire more. I'm not content with where I'm at. God, I want more than just the beginning of the dream. I want to live in your reality. Pot number 5, we're going to talk about some specific things because a lot of times we get to there and then we're okay. We've seen the dream accomplished and it's gorgeous and it's unbelievable and God, wow, what have you done? I just couldn't have ever imagined getting from there to here. God, You are amazing. And then we hit neutral. And we just sit back and we live in that accomplishment of that dream. Do you realize that just as fast, those same weeds, the same broken pot, the same hurts, if we're not continually dealing with them and allowing God to have control of our lives, it will strangle that dream that you saw, that accomplishment that you saw. And so what I feel like happens a lot is we get to that stage and then we're done. And what God wants us to know is that there is another dream I have for you. There is even more that I have for you. I want to give you more of who I am. So pot 5 is beautiful, it's full, it's living out its potential. But to do that, to live out our potential, we have to be willing to continue to seek His will on a daily basis. We have to be willing to continually seek His vision. And like I said before, I cannot receive that vision from Russ. I can't receive that vision from my wife. I can't receive that vision from you. I have to continually seek God's plan and God's vision over my life. I want my life to be in a continual state of growth and asking for more. I have to, number 2, be willing to make mistakes, because to get from here to there, I have to not be scared of failure. You realize that? That God is wanting to do so much in us, and along the way, we're going to have to be willing to take a risk to take those steps that He's asking us to take. And sometimes we're going to mess up along the way, and I have to be willing to get up and to move towards Him and say, God, I want to learn from them. I want you to teach me through them. God, I want to grow so that I don't have to continue making that same mistake. God, I want you to teach me through my failures. I want you to teach me through my mistakes. So I have to be willing to take risk, and there are times I'm going to make mistakes. But to pursue a dream, I have to be willing to take the risk. Another quote that I love is, there is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve, and that is the fear of failure. We see that all over the Bible. God plants a dream in someone's heart. If you look at just the life of Joseph, he had the dream. He was real passionate about it, even to a fault. He goes and shares to his father and his brothers that, by the way, both dreams I've had, they end with you bowing down to me. Are you excited about that? My dream is, Tina, that at the end of my dream, this is awesome, you're going to love this. God has given me this great dream. It is so awesome, it's so big. But by the way, both of them end up with both of you bowing down to me. No. Are you excited for me? Nope, Tina's not excited at all. And I believe her. She's not excited at all. So even to a fault, he was passionately sharing his dream when some of the times he probably should have just kept his mouth shut and said, God, I want you to orchestrate that in my life. I don't need to share that with my brothers and father at this point. I think at the point in the dream when they're bowing down to me, they might see that dream in a way that God needs to show them. But He doesn't need me telling others that just to gloat. Because honestly, that's what he was doing as a young man. He was immature, and he was probably sharing it in a way that probably wasn't the way God wanted him to share it with his father and brothers, okay? There could have been a different way that God said that dream through Joseph. But he was immature, he was excited about it, he was passionate about it, and he was in that stage where God has given this dream. He's in that stage, he's gotten the dream, and he is seeing that, all right? But I can't be willing to take risk and walk through failures and make mistakes because, listen, in Joseph's life, did anything go the way he thought it was going to go? No. At any point in time, he had every excuse in the world to give up and to say, that dream is not my reality. By the way, I shared my dream, God, and then my own brothers were first going to kill me, and were pretty much in unison. They were going to do that, and then thankfully one of them said, hey, this probably isn't the best idea to kill Dad's favorite son, all right? So I got a better one. Let's just sell him into slavery. Think about that, first of all. If you think your brothers love you, you're the youngest, you're Dad's favorite, to a fault you brag about it sometimes, and your brothers come up with a great idea to kill you, to murder you, to hide the evidence. And one brother who says, hey, I'm a really good guy, doesn't say, hey, guys, this is stupid. We need to alter our plans. This is not right. This is not God. He comes up with plans and says, you know what, let's not kill him. And you're thinking, okay, man, this guy's got some, all right, he's all right. But then he says, let's just sell him into slavery. That's a way better plan. So at that point in time, I guarantee you the thoughts of despair and depression and loneliness and failure came into Joseph's mind. And the temptation was immediately to be, that dream was not God-given. There is no way the dream I saw ends up with where I'm at right now. It can't be. There's no way. He gets there, he gets put in prison. He starts doing well, and he starts honoring God by speaking his word, interpreting dreams, all the things. And you look at all the things that happen in his life, whether it's being accused of having an affair. He's now accused with having an affair with his boss's wife, who he did the right thing, stepped away and said, no, this is not of God. I will not do this. There's no way. Everything that happens in his life, if he doesn't take the risk of saying, God, I believe in that dream. I'm going to continue honoring you and taking the steps you've asked me to take. I'm going to speak these words of knowledge. I'm going to speak these and interpret these dreams that you've asked me to. All these things, I'm going to manage this man's household. I'm going to do my very best with his resources. They're not even mine. But I want your glory to be shown. If he wasn't willing to continue taking those steps, he would have never seen that dream that he was given as a boy. He would have never impacted the people God wanted to impact. So we have to be willing to take a risk. We have to be willing to do the daily mundane tasks when nobody is watching. We've talked about that before. To live in success in the dream that God has called you to, I have to be willing to do the daily mundane things when no one's watching. And when I don't get any glory, I still have to be willing to do what it takes to get to there. I have to get up. And I have to be willing to spend time with God, to seek his voice, to hear him, to ask for his plan, to spend time in the Word, to live in accountability with people, to live in real relationship. I have to be willing to love those around me when someone else might not notice, when they don't love me. I have to be willing to do those daily things that I get no credit for, that sometimes feel like, God, I just keep doing these things you asked me to do, and I'm not seeing what you're doing to make this happen. And God's going, I know, I need you to keep taking those steps. I need you to keep doing what I've asked you to do. And trust me that what I'm doing is preparing you to live in your God-given reality. And sometimes it takes a lot longer than we ever thought. Sometimes it looks a lot different than we ever thought, because it wasn't my dream, it wasn't my vision, it wasn't someone else's, it was God's. And as I continue to honor him and take the dream, plant it, water it, fertilize it, give it a bigger pot, weed it, take away the things that shouldn't be there. If I'm not willing to do all those things that can be tedious, that we can see no end, we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel sometimes, we'll never have that breakthrough to live in that reality that God has poured over our life. If I live in the excuses, I'll never see that dream come to reality. I know I need to do this, but I can't do that. I can't leave this. I can't leave this job. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. But you don't understand, Michael. If I live in the excuses, I'll never progress through the steps to see my reality. It will only be a story. So I have to be willing to do the daily mundane tasks when nobody is watching that helps grow and develop my relationship with God. Next, I have to continually seek growth and preparation. God, just because it hurt when you took away these weeds and you pulled these weeds in my life, I have to be willing to get up the next day and say, God, is there more that you want to do in me? Are there other things you want to speak to me? Are there other truths that you need to pour over my life? Are there other things you need to yank out, chip away? God, I want to be in a continual state of growth. Next, I have to be willing to weed the garden, allowing God to trim off, uproot that stuff that's not of him. I have to be willing to continually take the steps that's needed to move towards that vision. And here's the greatest part, is that it doesn't end here, and I said that. It is so exciting to make it to this point. And I believe that we're going to be stepping into achieving some of those visions that God has poured over this church. And I believe that we're going to see major accomplishments in those dreams that God has given us. And I believe it's going to be real easy to sit back and go, wow, that's awesome, God. That's awesome. Look at that, Lord. Wow, that's so great that we were a part of that. That's really cool. Man, Lord, thank you for giving that to CLA. Russ, isn't that beautiful? That's really neat, isn't it? Will you meet me here on Wednesday, and then we'll just kind of look at it again, and we'll talk about it and how awesome it was to be a part of that, and we'll just, man, it's just nice, isn't it? Everybody just keep awkwardly looking at that plant. Isn't that good? We laugh about it, but that's what we do. We accomplish a dream that God has placed over our life. We live in that accomplishment, and then we just sit back and we go, wow, that's really neat. I cannot believe that. That's so cool. And what God is saying is that I've got so much more for you. That's great. I'm glad that we were able to accomplish that, but I've got another dream. I've got more of that same dream that I haven't relayed to you. But you got to come to me. And you got to be willing to get up. It's like it's the athlete that accomplishes winning the whatever they were going after, the championship. Yeah. And then the next day they say, well, man, that was awesome. And they just sit back and they get out of shape and they don't do what it takes for the next year. It's the championship hangover. And I do not want CLA to live in that. I believe we're going to be stepping into some great things. And I want us to prepare our hearts now, that when we reach that, God's got more. When you reach those God-given dreams in your life, realize that there's so much more. And that one is only preparing you for what's after that. That dream that God gave you was not the end game in your life, that you just sit back the rest of your life and grow old. That God has so much more. Maybe you've already accomplished a lot of dreams in your life and you're in a phase where you don't know what's next. God does. God knows exactly what He's having you do. God knows exactly what dream He wants to pour over you. We have to be willing to listen. I talked about a couple weeks ago that I have to be willing to seek His plan. I have to be willing for it to look totally different than mine. I have to be willing to continue to go after it. And when I get there, I have to be willing the next day to get up and say, okay, God, what's next? That was phenomenal. God, I want to give you glory and I want to praise you, but now I want more. Because God says all over His Bible that He is a God of abundance. He is a God of more. He desires to give us more. And trust me, when you've reached your God-given dream, He's not out of dreams. The tank does not go empty. If you are breathing and living today, God has a dream to pour over your life. There's not enough hurts, failures, age, race, sex, job, success, or failure that will stop you from being able to receive a dream from God. God has a dream for your life. It might be hard, and there might be some things that He needs to do in your life to get you to that place. Not to that place anymore, over there. But man, God has that for you. And He loves us and He wants to pour it over. C.S. Lewis said, you are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. God has more. God has more. So I want us to get up right now. And I want us to begin to, I want you to put out your hands, and do we have that ready, Ryan? Yes or no? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and play this. And right now, I want us to begin to ask God. I left extra time on purpose. You can't say we got to leave. It's early, all right? Really early. Warren Hunsberger would have never gotten done this early. I'm telling you that right now. See, I can say that when my dad now comes to the church and I'm the pastor, because he has no control of the microphones anymore. So listen, I want us to take this time to say, God, I don't know what stage you're in. I don't. And I don't want to pretend that I want to tell you what stage you're in. I want you to go to God and say, God, Where have I gotten stuck in that process? Maybe I haven't even heard his dream yet. Maybe I've been given the dream, but I'm not willing to take the first step. God, maybe I'm in the phase where I need you to show me what's next. God, maybe I'm in the stage where I need some weeds pulled. God, maybe I'm in a stage where I've accomplished the dream that I thought you gave me, and then maybe I just sat back and I was content and I've gotten complacent. Whatever stage you're in, I want you to come to him during this altar time, and I want you to just ask him, whether it's from your seat or from the altar, I want you to say, God, I want new dreams. God, if I have the dream, God, I want to be able to move towards it. God, give me new passion for what you have for me, the plan you have for me, the dream you have for me, what you've created me for. God, I want my dream to become my reality. I don't want to tell great stories. God, I want to live in your reality. I don't want to even have to share the dream. I want people to come in contact with me and see that dream being played out in my life. God, I need you. God, I want you to pour it over me. And so during this time, go ahead and turn it up, guys. I want us to just begin to cry out to God. I want us to say, God, what stage am I in? And Lord, I need you. And then we're going to come back together and pray and close.
You're full of life and full of passion. That's how he made you. Just let it happen. You're full of life now, full of passion. That's how he made you. Just let it happen. And he calls each one of us by our names to come away, and he whispers to your heart to let it go and to be alive. Yeah, he calls each one of us by our names to come away, and he whispers to your heart to let it go and to be alive, and he whispers through the fields with you. So take me back to the beginning, when I was young, running through the fields with you. So take me back to the beginning, when I was young, running through the fields with you. So take me back to the beginning, when I was young, running through the fields with you. So take me back to the beginning, when I was young, running through the fields with you. So take me back to the beginning, when I was young, running through the fields with you. So take me back to the beginning, when I was young, running through the fields with you. So take me back to the beginning, when I was young, running through the fields with you. So take me back to the beginning, when I was young, running through the fields with you. So take me back to the beginning, when I was young, running through the fields with you. Oh, make us like children, make us like children.
Lord, I just pray, Father God, I just ask you to just begin to share dreams, to begin to pour your vision. God, I pray that you begin to bring passion, or maybe we've let it go. God, I pray that you draw us into you. Father, I pray that you take us by the hand, as a father takes the young hand of a child, Lord, and guides and direct us, God. And that just as a child with their daddy, Lord, as we trust you, that we don't have fear in what you have for us, God. That we don't allow doubt or hurts to get in the way of living out that dream, Father. God, I pray just that you begin to flow through this place, Lord. That you begin to revive dreams that maybe we allowed to die. That you begin to revive dreams that we thought maybe were dead. That you begin to speak your dreams over each person. Lord, we love you and we praise you. Jesus, we ask you to just inhabit our lives daily, God. Lord, I speak this over every family here, every individual here, God. Your dreams, your vision. That we will not be content with where we are. That we will desire more. That we will seek your will and your plan. Jesus, we love you.
Just let it happen.
Amen.
You're full of love.